Good morning, everybody. As we continue our geometry unit, let's talk a little bit about triangles. We're still going to continue algebra, and this time we're going to solve missing angles of triangles. Some of my favorite stuff. As you look at this triangle below, before we get started, you will need access to a calculator, you will need a piece of scrap paper, and something to write with. You'll be answering questions throughout, so make sure you're paying attention. The triangle below has all equal sides. It has all equal angles. It's called an equilateral triangle. Remember that because it's going to be useful later on. What I want you to do right now is find the sum of all three angles that I gave you here. Find the sum. You should have found that the total number of degrees in this triangle, or the sum of all three angles, is 180 degrees. Remember that because all triangles have a total of 180 degrees in them. Super important information as we go ahead and solve all of our problems. Let's go on to the next problem. These are the kind that you've seen on some of your CRs. You're going to see them later on in the week as well. This is a right triangle. A right triangle, we know, has this symbol in it because it means only one of the angles is a 90-degree angle. Let's see what other information they've given us. In this right triangle, the name of this right triangle is ABC. Angle A is 48 degrees. I'm going to type that in or write that in. This way it helps me visualize things. Anytime you're working with geometry and shapes, you should always have a picture in front of you. It helps you visualize. Now it says find the missing angle of measure of B. So we're looking for this angle right here. I will always set up an equation because this is to prepare you for the 8th grade, okay? So I know angle C is 90 degrees. I know angle A is 48 degrees. I also know that angle B is unknown yet, so I'm going to call it X. I do know that all angles in a triangle will add up to 180 degrees. I know you can probably just add these together and subtract it from 180, and we are going to do that, but I want you to get used to writing equations. Next year we work with triangles a lot in 8th grade, and you need to know how to do all of this. So 90 plus 148 is 138 degrees. Now comes the part that you already know how to do. It's just a really good review. Next year in 8th grade, we work with equations all the time, so let's just get really good at them so next year is a breeze. If I want to get X alone, I need to subtract 138 from this side because I want to get rid of it there, and I want to get rid of it. Whatever I do to the left side, I need to do to the right side as well. I can't always write and think at the same time. 138 subtracted from 180 should give us how much? Hopefully you subtracted this in your calculator and you found out it was 42. This is actually the angle measure, so we're going to put a degree sign in. If you look, we must have done it right because there it is. I can always check by adding all three angles up again and making sure they add up to 180. Let's go on to the next one. In this problem, it says triangle ABC is isosceles. This is how I remember what isosceles means. It has two S's in it, which must mean that two of the sides are congruent. Remember what congruent means. They're the same exact size or shape. So those two sides must be the same. It says AB, that's this side, is congruent. That's what this little symbol means, congruent to side BC. And I already gave that away. That's why I put these lines in the side to show that those two sides are the same length. If the measure of angle C is 13 degrees, what's the measure of angle B? Well, they only gave us one angle. How would we find that? If two sides are congruent, then two angles must also be congruent. And if it's this angle here that's attached to BC, it must also be this angle here that's attached to AB. So we're going to label that 13 degrees. And we need to, I'm going to change the color, we need to find angle B. So let's set it up again. 13 plus 13. Again, we don't know what b is, so I'm going to include an x. And I know all together this equals 180. Now, before I start simplifying, or solving, I should simplify. If I were to draw my ladder, I notice that there are a few things on this side I could put together, and that's the 13 and 13. So I'm going to get 26 plus x equals 180. Okay, so if I subtract 26 from both sides, this is really a lot like the last problem. What would we get? Please calculate that for me. I think you get 154 degrees. Always label. So B is 154 degrees. Here's our next problem. This one doesn't have a drawing, so guess what we're going to need to do? Yes, we have to draw it. It says if two angles of a triangle have measures 72 degrees and 25 degrees, what's the measure of the third angle? I'm going to go ahead and draw. I always draw. These are never to scale, especially with my drawings. This is 72 degrees. And this angle, let's say, is 25 degrees. What's this angle? I want you to try this one and calculate it. Hopefully, when you finished all of your work, you found out that the missing angle was 83 degrees. If you did not get it correctly, here is all of my solution right here on the right. Let's try another one. Now we're going to get into a little bit more algebra. You definitely have to set these up as equations. It says, use the diagram below to find the value of x and then find each angle. Let me move myself here so you can read it. And then find each angle. So we have three angles that are given here. Angle A is 38 degrees. Angle B is unknown. It's x. Angle C is x plus 2. Altogether, every single triangle in the world has a total of 180 degrees. Now, are there any items, any terms I can put together on the left side? Yes, of course there are. I have 38 and 2. Does everybody see that? So 38 and 2 is 40. And I have an x here, and I have an x here, so plus 2x. Oh, look at this. We have a two-step equation. Now, sometimes it helps to draw the ladder, so I'm going to draw that for anybody who might need to see that. I also see that 40 is a constant, and I see 180 is a constant. Let's put the constants together. Well, I can't put them together just by adding them. They're on opposite sides, so I need to do the opposite. I'm going to subtract 40 here. That's the opposite of positive 40, right? And subtract 40 here. Now I have 2x equals 140. Last step, I have two x's. I want to find out the value of 1x, so I will divide both sides by 2. And it looks to me like x is 70 degrees. We are not done. That did not finish the question. All right, so I know b is also 70 degrees because it's just 1x. But c is x plus 2. So whatever I need to do is substitute 70 in for x. 70 plus 2, 72. Now, anytime I've had to find more than one angle, I want to check to make sure it works. So right now I need all of you to add 70 plus 72 plus 32, or 38, sorry. I'm going to do it the long way instead of using my calculator. 2 plus 8 is 10. Carry the 1. 7 and 7. Actually, let's do this. Let's add 7 and 3. That's nice and easy in my head. 7 plus 3 is 10. Plus 1 is 11. Plus 7 is 180. So we have all of those angles correct. Nice work. Let's move on to another one. Last one. Now in this one, we've done several of these together. I want you to see if you can set up the equation. This is how I set up my equation. Yours should look similar, although they may not be in the same order. That's okay. Now I'm going to look for all of my x's first. I have 12 x's here, and I have 8 x's here. I always circle them. That's how I do it. You can also do x's in those tables if you want. This is 20 x's. Now I'm going to put squares around my constants, which is 55, 8, and -3. Oh, 8 and -3. Okay, 8 good guys, 3 bad guys. When they get together, I'm left with 5 extra good guys. So if I have 5 good guys and 55 good guys here, that means I have a total of 60. Hopefully you can read my writing. Okay. Now, again, two-step equation. I need to get all the constants together by moving the constants to one side. And the way I can move them is by getting rid of them on the left and doing the same thing on the right. Okay. Oops, that's a 20. Oh. Equals 120. Now my last step is to divide both sides by 20. And x should give me, boy, this is really hard for you to read, I apologize. X should give me 6. That's just the value of x. Your job right now is to substitute this in for all of the x's and find the missing angles. I substituted 6 in for each of my x's, and I found out the angle at the top is 80 degrees. The angle at the bottom right is 45 degrees. And when I add everything up, I do get 180 degrees. Good luck with this.